So if you haven't already, go ahead, if you're here on video, and switch to gallery view. And that is available from a little toggle in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And that makes all of us even Steven in terms of our size in the frame. Hello, welcome. Hi there.
Hello.
All right, everybody, as you join, you are muted by default, so go ahead and unmute yourself and say hi. This is a collaborative, participatory sort of event, so you will need the ability to speak.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hey, Shannon.
And we will do a round of introductions here pretty quick, too. All right, Rachel, I can't hear you yet. I can see that you're here. All right, let's pull up the chat. And this is why we start early. Hi. I wonder if, for Rachel, the phone number is your phone number, Rachel? Oh. Hello.
Hi, not Rachel. I'm driving right now, and I'm going to just mute myself for the next 5 minutes. I should be at the office shortly to go and join online with the computer.
Okay. Sounds great, not Rachel. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
And it looks like Rachel has got an audio connection. Rachel, when you get a second, go ahead and unmute yourself and say hi.
Here we go. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Welcome. How are you?
Hi, Rachel.
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me.
All right, great. We are at exactly the top of the hour, so let's go ahead and get started. And then as our friends out and about join us, then they can just catch up. So today we are here to talk about how to make meetings better when you are not in charge. And like all of our community of practice sessions, this is an opportunity for us to come together and explore a topic and try out some different methods and then just sort of dive into how we can make that even better for ourselves and the rest of the world. And today I'm super thrilled to not be in charge of this one, but instead to invite you to meet Rona Roberts. Rona Roberts is the co-founder and partner at Roberts & Kay, which is a Kentucky-based organization and a community development firm founded in '83. She's dedicated to the advancement of democratic processes in the workplace and in communities. So we're going to get a chance to explore what that means. What does it mean to be democratic in the workplace? So while the specific topics that Rona explores vary, the majority of her clients want to understand how individuals and groups in communities best organize and work together towards shared goals. So that's something that we all share, right? Like that's the whole point of meetings. How do we come together and push that forward? Happily, Rona's bringing extensive qualitative research, both from projects she's done with Kentucky and national clients and with high schools to the conversation today. And in addition to her professional experience, she's got extensive practice time in the saddle with clients designing and carrying out public engagement process meetings. So we all know those are a little bit extra challenging when it comes to getting people actually involved. And then finally, something that thrills me to no end, Rona is a Kentucky native, and in addition to her forthcoming book, which is on this very topic, so democratic revolutionary meetings, she's also written 2 books about Kentucky food. So with that, I know, right? How awesome is that? So with that, I would love to turn it over to Rona.
Okay, Rona is, am I turned over?
You're turned over. It's all you. So go ahead and
all right, good.
Away.
Okay, so I was thrilled to get a chance to be part of a community of practice session on something that I've probably spent too much time working on by myself, and that's how to make meetings better when we're not in charge. For me, the touchstone of this session is not your first question that guides Lucid Meetings Community of Practice, but more the second. How can we advance this topic together? That's what I'm hoping will happen today. And I'm so appreciative of all the people who are here to talk about it and work on it together. It seems like we can, so really what I'm hoping to do today is to put ideas out. These are some of the ideas that are in my book, Revolutionary Meetings, that's right at the very end of production. And just see how they sound. Do they fit? Have you discard things that don't work and add things that will work and help true it up? The proposition is that members of recurring, let's say Monday morning status meetings who don't have a special role can use small d democratic practices to improve meeting outcomes for themselves and the other people involved. So will this work? That's what we're here to talk about. I think, Elise, maybe this is the poll moment.
You know what? Actually, why don't we do a quick round of introductions and then pull up a poll? Does that sound great?
Right. Yes.
So for everybody who's here, if you can, go ahead and unmute your microphone. And if you've got a video, go ahead and turn it on, and that'd be awesome. And we're going to go ahead and do quick around the room kind of, and this is around the screen introductions. I would love for you to share your name, where you're joining from today, and briefly, like, what is the most recent meeting you attended where you were a participant rather than a leader? So that's it. Just the name of the meeting and what it was about. As an example, I'll go first. My name is Elise Keith. I'm joining today from Portland, Oregon. And last night I went to a hosted session on running icebreakers, warm-ups, and energizers for the design thinking community. And I wasn't in charge, and it always feels strange to me. So who would like to go next? I see a whole bunch of folks here.
I can go next. My name is Shannon Marchone, and I'm also from Portland, Oregon. And I don't know if this kind of meeting counts, but the last meeting I went to was the parent-teacher club meeting for my daughter's school, where I was a participant and not in charge.
I think that counts a lot.
All right, who would like to go next?
I will. So I'm Rona Roberts. I'm in Lexington, Kentucky. My most recent meeting was the dreaded neighborhood meeting, the monthly neighborhood meeting where I was not in charge. It went well, but it's messy, so messy.
I'll go. I'm John Keith from Portland, Oregon. Highly associated with Lucid Meetings. My most recent meeting where I was not the official leader would have been this morning at 6:30 our time. But I do have a tendency to wrest control, taking charge of those meetings if they're going a little sideways. So I'm very interested in this topic.
All right, Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel Tenney. I'm in Denver. And the last meeting I attended I was not in charge, was a project phone meeting for one of my projects yesterday afternoon.
Excellent. Thanks, Rachel. All of these non-video people. How about Ariel?
This is Ariel. Can you hear me? I'm not sure if my audio is working.
Yep, we can hear you. We can't see you, but
Okay.
we can hear you.
Great. Thank you. I don't have video capability. So I'm Ariel. I am also in Denver. And my most recent meeting when I was not in charge was last week. It was a bigger team meeting with everyone in our group.
All right. Thank you. Welcome, Ariel. Tom.
Hi, I'm going to jump
good.
in.
Yes, please do.
This is the anonymous person whose name is MJ. I'm calling in from Washington, D.C., and the last meeting I was a part of that I wasn't in charge of was about an hour ago, and it was our weekly stand-up meeting.
Oh.
All right. And MJ, I've renamed you in our interface so we can stop calling you anonymous person without a name. Awesome. How about Tom? Tom, are you around?
I am. If I can get off of mute there, can you hear me?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Good morning, guys. Tom Flynn with Ziba here in Portland, Oregon, another Oregonian. And most recent meeting I can think of where I wasn't in charge, the Monday morning all studio stand up.
All right. Welcome, Tom. And finally, Meg.
Hi, this is Meg Molstead in Seattle, Washington. The last meeting I attended that I was not in charge of was a research project meeting last Friday.
All right. Welcome, Meg. Thank you. And then,
Thanks.
Oh, and can I just, this is Rachel. I just want to note that Ariel, Meg, and I all work together on a variety of projects with the VA.
oh, welcome.
Yes.
Thanks for bringing friends, Rachel.
You bet. I've been singing your praises and saying how helpful these community to practice and your resources are. So I'm glad that they jumped on. We've had some really interesting, well, kind of brief, but some conversations about the feedback that was gathered from the survey that we did. And there's a lot of interest in trying to make things better.
Ah, excellent. Very cool. Well, so just to get one final grounding in how much of our time we spend collectively in meetings as participants versus leaders, we have a quick poll, continuing that research sort of perspective. So as we gather feedback, what perspectives are we reflecting here as a group? So go ahead and vote. And the question is, how often are you a participant in meetings rather than the meeting leader? And I see most votes are in. We could give this another 4, 3, 2, 1. And Rachel says that you folks can't actually, you can't do the poll. This is a huge challenge for the VA. Yay, tech. All right. So 80%, great. So let's show the results for everybody. The results for everybody is just right down the middle, which is great. That means that basically we've got a mix of perspectives in there. So now that we've got a sense of who we are and how often we meet, lead versus not, Rona, do you want to go ahead and start exploring some of what you've learned?
Yes, carry on. Well, I start with a premise that I think I've had my whole life, but I can't remember when I didn't have it, and that is that democracy can cure a lot of ills. And I first learned about the French Revolution and its slogan of liberty, equality, fraternity in high school French. Mrs. Ruth Thompson at the Monticello High School, total number of students, 139, she'd never been to France, but she's the best teacher I ever had. And she would talk about liberty, equality, fraternity. And she would get so excited, she would just vibrate that these principles actually had existed and what power they could have for human's future. So a little bit later, I started thinking, I think those have some real life application in a lot of the work that I do, and especially if I sort of translate them as choice, especially creating choice for others at work, equity and connection, the connection that we so enjoy as part of our work with others. So I'm doing a little background on myself, sort of telling a little bit of the story of how I got to this. Part of another big milestone for me was running into the work of Barry Oshry, Power and Systems in Massachusetts. I don't know if people know his work, but he made it clear to me that tops, middles, bottoms, and customers, 4 crucial roles, are at play in almost all of the work we do, but we're not aware of we're not aware of where we are and how the role that we play, that role that we occupy is influencing or guiding the actions that we take. So our consciousness is shaped by structures that we fall into, but we're not that aware of it. Bottoms, I would say, in this case, we're talking about bottoms, who are meeting members who don't have a special role. They're not middle management. They're not middle management in the meeting either. And all the way back to Doyle and Strauss, my very first meeting book I ever read, they were very interested in meeting roles. And crucially, I think, and brilliantly, separated leader and facilitator. Made a lot of difference for a lot of us who became facilitators. And they kind of glorified the recorder role, good for them. And they spoke about participants or members, and I noticed that but didn't know what to do with it. So there might be a through line somewhere in here, I think. In my own life, I grew up on a working farm in South Central Kentucky. That's my farm on the right, my first elementary school on the left. The farm was run, yes.
We can't see your slides. You didn't share. Did you want to do that?
No. Oh, no.
So I was like, wait, farm on the right of what?
Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right. I'm super looking forward to seeing the farm.
Oh, it's pretty small. Okay, here I am. Let's see. Share. So all of the things that I just went running by were also, no?
We're all there. Okay. Oh, cool. Great. So then we'll, afterwards, we'll pull some of these slides into the notes so that we can put in links to those things too. Great.
Okay. Is this slide showing?
It is.
my work up. Okay. But now slideshow, play from current slide. We'll play from the current slide.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah. See the farm?
Yes.
Yeah, indeed we do.
Okay. Here we go. My first elementary school, these were places where I think small d democracy was in action, except that there weren't very many strong roles for women unless you were teaching. At the University of Kentucky, like many other people in the early 70s, I worked a great deal on students and their power to shape education policy and their own education experience. And then I headed to the Philippines for Peace Corps. Where my real learning about meetings began. I had a marvelous mentor, Pedro Arbizo, who coached me every day, and I was supporting a team that created 37 community councils in 37 municipalities, planning councils for a big international development project. When I came back to the States, I spent a long time working, and still work some, with legal services programs, and my special thing was to help multiple programs in one state collaborate and create state support systems, state support structures that would do things for all the programs, things like training, legislative advocacy. There were a lot of meetings, and a lot of really good meetings with a lot of very engaged people. When Roberts and Cave began with our focus on advancing democratic practices in workplaces and communities, we were largely oriented toward large-scale, statewide, community-wide, school district-wide community engagement systems. And that went on until a day that I still remember, when against our little firm's rules, we were working with people who were required to be in a meeting inside a school system. And I began to wonder from then how much time we spend in our lives in meetings where we're just waiting for them to be over, or we're playing meeting bingo. And I began looking online and trying to write about all of this. And I bumped into Elise's work on how much time we actually do spend in meetings. So I've checked this out with Elise. And the answer, I think we can roughly say, is somewhere between 4 years and 16 years of our lives we spend in meetings. So would we like to be awake and, contributing at the low end if we're just members, or if we're managers at the high end, 12 to 16 years? Would we like to be awake, or would we, are we willing to let that 4 years of our lives just go? So I was not.
When you put it that way.
Yeah, I felt a sense of urgency about it. So in the beginning, I was trying to write a book that was like very bad amateur philosophy about, I didn't call it that, but I looked at it later. Like, oh, this is just terrible. This is so bad. And eventually I've come around to writing what I hope is a practical book. for members of meetings, and it centers around 5 points in meetings where members can choose to make a difference and can influence the course of a meeting. So I'm going to ideally talk not more than 1 minute per change point, as I call these. After the first, we're going to take a very quick little sense from you about whether what is going on here makes some sense. After the second change point, then there's going to be some breakout work that Elise is going to brilliantly manage, as she does.
So before we get into the change points, I think it would be useful for everyone to help with the breakout work later. If you were to take just 30 seconds, and we'll go ahead and we'll just do this one quietly, but 30 seconds, and I want you to connect with a specific meeting that you have attended recently where you weren't in charge and you were not particularly pleased with how your time was spent. It was one of those 4 bits of the 4 years that you wish you could have had back. So go ahead and take 30 seconds. I want you to picture in your mind who was in charge of that meeting. I want you to picture, go ahead and close your eyes on this one if you haven't, it might help. Who else was in the room? What it smelled like, how you felt in your body. Were you tense? Were you fighting to stay awake maybe? Were you anxious to be getting on to something else? How long did that go, and how long, even if it was just 10 minutes, did it actually feel in terms of your experience of time? And then hold on to that very, very specific memory. And with that moment in mind, Rona's going to walk us through her 5 change points, and we're going to talk about whether each one of them would have helped in that case, other cases we've experienced where that change might have helped, and how we might advance this even farther.
And Elise, the shared document that you created, when do you want to introduce that?
I'll do that in a second here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right, all yours.
All mine, okay. Well, that was so interesting. I got at least as miserable and uncomfortable as I had been in the meeting that came to mind. And actually, the first change point is one that could have helped. So the first change point, why it's 5 minutes before the meeting begins, and why is this a potent change point? It's really, really good for members, for one thing, because no one really owns it. It's not, it's sort of fluid and floating out there for members to step into. And also, this is my very favorite one, by the way, but it is my sense that it's possible to make changes in the first few minutes before a meeting begins that are easy and quick and will make a real difference. So how can members take action? Well, I say geography and chemistry. In geography, it's possible to just change the space, improve the temperature, adjust the lighting, put the used coffee cups in the trash, empty the trash, arrange the seats. Not that all of those things need to be done in every case, but often there's just some things that make a space feel more receptive and more ready for real work. In terms of chemistry, that's more about interaction and influencing the feeling, the climate, the ambiance of a place. And this is harder for introverts. I'm an introvert, so I think I know about this. But we as members can choose to play a role. Again, a different role this time, a different sense of role. We can choose to be hosts. We can play the role of host to each other. We can offer each other welcome and appreciation. We can offer greetings. We can offer hospitality. And so what does this sound like? In the book, by the way, I have the simplest version of all of this is just single-page checklists for people to use. And then in every case, I have a whole lot of suggested specific language, which sometimes can help people figure out how to get started. For physical space changes, you might not have to say a word because no one else may be there. But if others do arrive during space prep, you can say, well, I see a way, I think, that rearranges that might make us a little more comfortable. What do you think? Or would you be interested in trying it out with me? So you can just put a name and a description around what you're doing. And I've never in my life yet had someone say, no, you can't do that, or no, I don't like it, or no, I prefer messy. Hasn't happened yet, could happen, and may have happened to some of you. And then for changing the climate, one of the things that I've enjoyed a great deal in life is people who have signature greetings. And so they use them all the time. They never think about it. My father's was, how's every little thing? And I worked on a committee with someone who would come and say, what do you know? What do you know that's any good? This was routine, but what do you know? What do you know that's any good? So there's something that opens a path, opens some space for other people. So good morning, it's good to see you. What would you be doing if you weren't here? How are things at home or your office or whatever? These are things that we can say to others who are getting ready to be in a meeting that can help with the warmth and the sense of readiness. Okay, Lise.
So with that one, just a quick poll. And in this case, show of hands, except for those of you who can't show me your hands, would this particular tactic have helped in the meeting that you envisioned? I'm looking for a thumbs up or a yes, a sideways hand, which is a maybe, or a not so much, thumbs down. So for those of you who can't show me your fingers, you go ahead and give me, hi there, go ahead and give me thumbs up, this or down, and then the rest of you can just type it in chat and we'll get a sense. I got a thumbs up. Well, and John's is a thumbsy. Okay. I see some maybes and I see some thumbs up in the chat from others as well. Hi, MJ Space. Nice to see you. All right. So that's the first one. Let's go ahead and move on to the second one. And then there we're going to do some breakouts. So for those of you who are anticipating participating, just know it's coming. So be ready.
Coming soon if I do my work correctly. So why do the second change point is the first 5 minutes of the meeting. And why do these minutes matter? Why do I consider it kind of a leverage point? The first 5 minutes form a kind of a seed crystal. And I sit here with intention, they form a seed crystal, but actually without intention, they do too. It can be a crystal of craziness and just things not making sense. Excuse me. But the first 5 minutes set up the rest of the meeting. So there are 9 specific meeting moves that can make a big difference, that can be done in the first 5 minutes, but with a lot of intention. Remember, I'm really focusing on recurring meetings now, not brand new meetings where people are needing to spend time actually really learning how to work with each other. We're working on those dreaded Monday morning status meetings. Missing these 9 moves, or some of them, weakens meetings. So what can members do? Generally, a leader, a facilitator, the boss, someone is taking control during these first 5 minutes. They don't always use the first 5 minutes in the way that might make the meeting most successful. So when they don't, members can make specific suggestions for positive change. I think particularly with skilled use of questions. Not leading questions, not attacking questions, just plain old questions. So this is a list of the 9 crucial opening moves. They will be very familiar to all of us. You might have a different set or some quibbles, but generally I'm focused on making explicit the need to start on time, deal welcome, state meeting purpose, deal effectively with who's in meeting roles, do the agenda process with engagement and adoption, and then get to the first meeting item. So what kind of questions could help? Let's say there's a lot of language for all of these, but I just picked a couple. Let's say the meeting is drifting toward a late start. As a member, could we say, would we be comfortable saying something like this? I'm watching the clock because I have a phone call scheduled for 10. Or because we've been talking about wanting to start on time more. So we're running a little late already. Could we go ahead and start? Could a member say that? And would it help? Or let's say that no one has stated a clear purpose for the meeting. One of the crucial aspects of getting a meeting set to work well. As a member, could we say, what's the most important thing we have to finish today? But by the time we leave here, when we leave at 9:30, what do we have to have done? That's it.
Excellent. So with that particular one, same thing. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Would that have helped you in the meeting that you were in? If you had taken charge in that first 5 minutes and said, yeah, let's get started, or hey, what is it we need to accomplish? I saw a thumbs up from MJ. I see
did that this morning.
Yep, Shannon, excellent. So we're going to explore these 2 points just a little bit deeper, and I'm going to put a link in here to the chat. That's a link to a Google Doc. So go ahead and everybody click on that. And Rona, if you wouldn't mind just stop pausing the share screen for a little bit so we can see each other. And then we'll come back to this in a minute. Mm-hmm. Excellent. So there's a Google Doc link there. And sure, you bet. I think Rachel asked if I can unmute her, but I don't know if I can. I'll look at that in a second. And then what we're going to do is we're going to break into smaller groups. And in your smaller groups, what I would love for you to do is get into that presentation and into that Google Doc, and you're going to explore this question. The question you're going to explore is, with this particular topic, so either tactic 1 or tactic 2, and thinking back to that challenge that you had, how might you expand or adapt that particular strategy, right? So Rona's giving you, okay, so the VA can't access the doc, so the VA is going to have to work with their partners who can. Make sure you're all in a room with somebody who can, in fact, get to that. I'm going to move some folks around. And then you're going to work together to say, okay, what are some other things we could do to build on this strategy? What's some other language we might use? What's another way we might take charge of the room in advance? What's another way we might take charge of the room in the beginning? Tom, MJ, Shannon, John, those of you who are not VA, can you access that Google Doc in the chat?
Can you drop a link in Slack for me? Because I'm on my iPad. You need to hit this as my desktop.
You bet.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I was able to access it.
All right, great.
Annalise, I'm actually mobile in a car right now, so I can't do anything.
You can't do jack. All right, well, good. I've paired you up with Shannon.
I can listen and talk. That's about the best I can offer.
Okay. All right. So I've got Rona in one room, I've got John in one room, and I've got Tom in one room, and Shannon. So Shannon and MJ. Actually, MJ, I'm going to move you into where Rona was so that you can take on for her. Okay, great. So with that, let's go. You've got 6 minutes to come up with more specific examples of how to expand round 1. So change the room, or idea 2, change the first 5 minutes. Ready? Go. Go.
Linguistic thing she had.
Welcome back. No, surprise. Hello, welcome back, everybody.
There I am.
All right. So, and I think we lost a friend from the VA, and I can understand that's technically challenging. All right, friends. So, how was that experience? What was one of the key ideas that you came up with together as a group? Did one person from each breakout want to report? I know you do.
I'll give this to MJ.
I'll go first. Yeah, me or John. I think the point that we were actually ending on was really salient, and it was the idea of So this is kind of like the 5 minutes before the meeting starts, but one of the points is, especially with our overbooked culture, is to make sure that you're in the meeting 5 minutes before the meeting starts, and maybe 10 or 15 minutes before the meeting starts, take some time to like quietly focus yourself and refresh yourself and get your head in the game of what the meeting's going to be. So you're not just running from one meeting to the next and bringing in your kind of like mental noise from the previous meeting or from your previous work. And
I love that.
Having that kind of a palate cleanser so that you're spreading that type of energy to your colleagues and not just the frantic angst that is often where we live. John, did you have anything you wanted to add?
That was, to me, that was one of the good ones. And I think what else we talked about? We're talking a little bit about is it culturally okay to say things in the first 5 minutes? Like I only have 30 minutes. Does your organization allow you to say that? And I think that's an interesting thing to work on. So one is this: you were just talking about adequate time between meetings. That's a cultural touchstone, as is the ability to speak up and say things so they could be candid. Like, can you do that? So I think that's that line on the little d democracy, and then the intersecting with culture a little bit.
Makes me wonder.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it makes me wonder about adding a suggestion to people to create that opening, to say, are there people here with specific constraints that we need to know about before we begin? Or does anybody? I have a constraint today. Does anyone else have them too? Maybe.
Right.
Yeah. Another group. What about you, Shannon and Tom?
We talked about, one of the things we were talking about was the challenges of being the participant and not the meeting lead. So, and walking that line of, if you want to say things like, oh, we're running a little late, can we get this meeting started? Is it okay to say that as a participant instead of a meeting lead, and not wanting to step on the leader's toes, right? And what are other things we can do? We also talked about, especially about maybe having like a pre-meeting with the meeting lead, to kind of know what the meeting's about and to just kind of make sure that you're prepared for the meeting and that way you're more mindful during the meeting. And one thing also we talked about is low energy in meetings. Like, how does this apply to meetings when you're having the phone, like a phone call meeting where it's not in person and it's not video and the energy is really, really low. And Tom was saying, maybe making more meetings video, maybe that could really help because those first 5 minutes set the tone. But if the tone is really low, how can we go about that?
Excellent. The research backs that, by the way. It's unequivocal. It's very clear. Video crushes phone calls every time.
Yep.
Last group.
What a nice segue. Ariel or Rachel, I think what we got to at the very end would be, never mind. You share the background of what we talked about, and then at the very end, something that you had recently tried that had worked.
So this is Ariel. Rachel and I are in a meeting together every week where half of our team is physically in one place and the other half is on the phone. And it's just really challenging, especially the person sitting furthest away from the phone, to be heard by everyone else. But the constraints of the space, like the phone cord's not very long, and the place where it's set up, it's just not everyone can sit by it. And so this week, what we did is we tried our hybrid approach for the first half of the meeting, and then we had part of the meeting that involved a screen share. So those of us in person just went back to our desks where we could all share screens and see.
That's great. Mm-hmm.
In a building with no wireless, if I understood correctly.
Yes, we don't have Wi-Fi. And we don't have work laptops, so it's not like someone can just bring a laptop into the room to take notes and then send it to the rest of the team. So we have a lot of physical challenges in our space.
So in the second half of that meeting, then you were all effectively remote. Is that how I understand it? You kind of switched it from a hybrid to an all remote, quote unquote, remote meeting.
So we met in one of our small conference rooms, and then those of us who were in that room just went back to our desktop. So we were all on the phone for the second half.
Mm-hmm. Did that work better?
I think so. I was worried it felt a little hectic, but Rachel said it was fine.
Yeah, I thought it worked well for me, but Ariel and I were IMing a little bit once we came back into this room. I think that, yeah, I'm curious how it felt to the people who were on the phone the whole time. But it did seem like we were back to our computers and logged back on within, I would say, 60 seconds maximum.
That sounds great. Stretch break.
Reframing, yeah.
So Rona, do you want to go through the next 3 tips?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
And then we'll do one more session like this where we explore those together in breakouts, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay. Oh, wait.
And yes, you want to share your screen.
I need to share my screen. This time I even know I need to share my screen. All right. Okay. Are you seeing?
Yes, looks great.
Okay. Okay, oops. Change point 3 really quickly is the very heart of the meeting, the core work zone. This is where we all know much about how to guide other people through this, but we also, I think, all have the experiences of sort of being stranded and lost in meeting swamps. Savvy members who know some meeting processes can make a difference in a whole lot of ways. And I've had the chance to work with a bunch of different small groups where, a bunch of different groups where the small groups wanted to learn and they did. I'm sad to say that it all involves members stepping up more. That's kind of one of the themes of the whole work, I guess. But members, in order to help the action portions of meetings work better, can contribute ideas, can contribute to choosing the most workable ideas of those that have been proposed, can help identify what's needed next for a group to develop consensus agreements. I spend a great deal of time advocating for consensus as the most democratic of the ways that people can get work done and trying to make it practical and workable. One of the great barriers to decision-making by consensus or any other way is when people withhold what they know is not going to work for any of a number of reasons. So members can pierce through that by stating what is hard to state about an issue, a context, or a likely impact. So things that members can say that might help is to, if they sense in the room something not spoken, they can say who sees this differently, 4 really powerful words. And as members are building criteria, for example, you can come forth with it again and say, well, in my department, a workable decision has to use no overtime because we've used up our overtime budget or whatever it might be. And then also it helps a great deal when members say, I'm not going to be able to support this and here's why, instead of later after the meeting saying, I just can't do it. Change point 4 is closing the meeting well. I won't go through it, but there's a formula for 7 things that really help. And then the follow through between meetings, in why this and why me, members, in order to get follow through between meetings to happen so that all the goodness that goes on in a meeting doesn't just dribble away and not get acted on, often have to step up and take more responsibility. Saying things like, how about I take the responsibility for meeting notes? I'll get them out today. Or I'd like to look into a meeting system that we can use so this doesn't keep being an issue. I've heard really good things about Lucid meetings. Does anyone object? I want to check them out. And that's it. That's the last slide. So we're ready now for Elise for the consideration.
Okay. So before we break into groups and talk about this all, so first of all, on change point 3, does anybody want more examples on that before we talk about that one more? So that's about things you can do in the middle of a meeting. Anybody have any questions for Rona about that before we break off and then we talk about that ourselves?
Seems
I don't
harder.
know if this is
Yeah, please go ahead, Rachel.
My question was actually going back, and I don't know if this would be a good time to address it or maybe wait until the end. But I couldn't get my phone off mute when we were talking about the 9 crucial opening moves, and with starting on time, there's your meeting Ariel and I are on, where there's a crucial person for the meeting who consistently has been late the last few weeks, and she's busy and she's tied up with other things. We totally understand, but just trying to figure out the best way to fill that space while we have to wait when you can't start on time because there's a key player who's not actually there. But we can table that if you want to keep moving forward right now.
What's your choice, Elise?
Well, do you want to hold that as a question and come to it in the end? Okay.
Yes, because I think there's a couple of things to try, but yes.
Awesome, cool. So any other questions about technically what was meant by the 3 change points that we have in front of us? 1, during the meeting, 2, closing up, and 3 in the meeting, 4 closing up, and 5 in between. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what we did before. We're going to break into groups. I'm going to make these a little bit shorter, and then we'll take some time at the end for discussion, wrap up, and final questions. And then I know Rona has time to stay a little bit after to go through any questions that anybody has too. All right. New groups, you have 4 minutes this time, same thing. So into that Google Doc, go ahead and add extra ideas and thoughts about the 3 methods we've just talked about, and go.
You?
Oh, welcome back.
Hi.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Tom! That's fabulously so weird.
Why am I in? I have no idea what's going on. Oh, there I am. Awesome. I think I'm in the right orientation now.
I'm so glad I'm recording.
Glad we captured that.
I do what I can for you.
Welcome back, everybody. I know that was short, and I know we've got all kinds of more ideas to explore on this. We have just a few minutes left, so before we go into our final round and then stick around for questions for anybody who wants to, I want to make a couple of commitments. So that Google Doc we've been working on, after this session, Rona and I are going to go through and we're going to take her slides and embed those with each of the change points. And then we're going to leave that there as a collaborative document we can continue to work on as a community after the meeting, if that's okay with you, Rona.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, sure.
Awesome. So, because we've just scratched the surface, we've just got started, and I heard from all kinds of people all over the world about their interest in the session, but their inability to access it at this particular time. So that'll give them a chance to get in there with us too. So with that, I would love to hear in a quick go around from everyone before we, officially end and then go into that question thing. What's the one tip that you pulled from this that you are most likely to apply to an upcoming meeting where you are a participant?
If I'm a physical participant in a room, I'm going to work to be there earlier and get myself in motion so that I make my own personal icebreaker. To me, doing the things like decluttering, moving chairs, talking to people is a way of sort of getting connected, and it overcomes my own inclination to sit back a little bit.
Nice. Would anybody like to go next?
This is Rachel, and I'm thinking about that too in terms of getting to the meeting ahead of time, and then also the first 5, or well, what's it in there? When you are, I guess it's in there too, like in terms of the chemistry and grading. I know I'm often pretty frazzled at the start of meetings and just trying to get everything in place and set up, and I don't do that small talk, and a lot of my meetings are virtual, so it's a little bit different, but I want to make more of an effort to do that and create that environment.
Nice. It makes a difference, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll jump in next. We were talking more about the middle of the meeting adjustments. and especially the challenges for like those reporting meetings where you just kind of say what you accomplished. So we were trying to maybe say like maybe lead by example and address more of like if you could send out an email ahead of time and saying this is what I accomplished, like the reporting that way, and then bring up more like this is the important parts and the like if you have any challenges that you need to share with the group to kind of get into more of a collaborative style than just a like rote regurgitation of the facts. That might be a good way to kind of get the energy up and to get more people involved.
Nice.
I'll jump on the icebreakers and kind of beginning of the meeting bandwagon part. I think I tend to get a little bit too focused on the agenda and get a little bit too serious and kind of forget about the socializing aspect and that kind of social connection aspect. And I think that if I were to embrace that a little bit more, that might actually help with the relationships with the other participants as well, and maybe make the meeting overall better.
Nice. Tom or Ariel?
I mean, I would kind of echo this, Tom, some of the things that John had said about just trying to kind of get yourself oriented and get your energy in the right spot beforehand. But also, I don't know, I'm toying with the idea of just trying to figure out how it could be, even though it's not requested or solicited by the meeting lead, figure out a way to just kind of be proactive with submitting information and start to kind of create new templates or new processes. I don't know how that would be received, but an idea that kind of came out of this.
Cool. Ariel.
And I am always physically on time for meetings, but I need to give myself a little bit more time before to prepare.
Nice. That was a common theme.
Yeah. I think the theme is early is on time. On time is kind of late to the meeting. I mean, sort of thing.
Well, and speaking of on time, I know Rona and I both have ours to go as well, but we are now officially overtime. So if you need to leave, please do. And we will thank you enormously for your participation.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys. We'll see you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. I'm working with a group right now, and one of the ground rules that they put together, which completely surprised me, was that everybody had to be 10 minutes early to every meeting. And they had to leave 30 minutes between every meeting on their scheduling before they could schedule a meeting at all. And it has shifted their culture. It's fascinating.
30 minutes between meetings.
30 minutes between meetings and 10 minutes early. And they've done things like go, oh, wait a second. If work starts at 8:30, we can't have a meeting at 8:30. And we can't have it at 8:40 because they can't show up to work at 8:30 and be 10 minutes early if the meeting's at 8:40. So they moved all the meetings, nothing starts before like 8:45.
Funny.
Like it's just kind of a reorganization of the whole culture all of a sudden.
It's so interesting that they're doing it with a ground rule, an explicit cultural artifact.
It's one of the things we do in our workshop, our programs to help people with their meeting cultures. They establish organization-wide ground rules, and
sure, they're so valuable and so important. Well, who's Rachel and MJ are still with us?
Rachel's not actually here. MJ's gone. So
okay, so it's the three of us.
And did you have a final takeaway that you wanted to share before we close out the recording?
Me, Rona. I do. And that is a sense from both of the my breakout sessions of how challenging it is as a member to step across a kind of a cultural norm and do that thing called leading from any chair. And so that I really don't know, as a writer about this, I don't know how to address building in courage, but as a person who is a member of meetings and often doesn't practice courage, I'm committing myself to be more courageous, to take another step, to nudge forward some and see what can happen. Because it's definitely, we have real serious habits.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point, because it oftentimes the barriers to success in meetings are not external to ourselves.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Excellent. Thank you so much for putting the time and energy into
Right.
this. And if you'd be kind enough to, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording now. So everybody on the recording, yay, thank you.
Yes. Thanks so much.